The question isn't whether Final Fantasy Tactics still slaps in 2025. It's whether Square Enix finally gave us a version that honors the original's razor-edge tactics without burying them under 90s menu archaeology. The Ivalice Chronicles is that answer, and it's shockingly close to the dream. The same brutal chess with knives, now wrapped in modern convenience and voice acting that lets the politics cut through the fog. It's also missing some War of the Lions extras and keeps a few of the classics' wild balance swings. So yeah, best way to play, almost certainly. Definitive? Not quite. Let's get into the meat. If you've never marched across Ivalice, here's the hook. You're Ramza, noble-born but conscience-filled, tripping into a civil war where truth is edited by the victors and friendship is a currency with terrible exchange rates. The setup is framed by a future historian who already decided you're the villain, while your friend Delita ascends as a hero you can't fully trust. That framing still rules because it gives everything weight. Every skirmish is a footnote in a history you're busy defacing in real time. The remaster doesn't reinvent that, it respects it. What it does reinvent is friction. Across the board, reviews line up on this. The new UI is the star. You deploy on the actual battlefield, not limbo. A turn order lives on a sidebar where it should have always been. You can rewind movement if you haven't acted, eyeball spell cast targets before you faceplant into them, flip to a clean tactical overhead that shows fertile terrain quirks for Geomancer nerds. And bless, the game lets you fast forward both battles and cutscenes without mangling the pacing. Mid-battle autosaves exist, but they're capped, so it's a safety net, not a time machine. This is the same FFT, except the car's been detailed and the windshield finally defogged. The other obvious upgrade is voice. Cutscenes sing with lived-in delivery instead of pure text scroll. Even generic units chirp and groan mid-fight, which sounds small until your white mage is grumpy. What? Turns a pixel nobody into a person you actually remember. The localization sticks with the War of the Lions flavor, elevated without faux Shakespeare bloat, and hearing the insults land out loud is half the fun. If you're chasing max drama, the Japanese track is spicier. English plays it a touch cooler. Both work. Let's triangulate the big outlets. IGN goes full heart eyes. Editor's Choice calls it by far the best way to play, hails the QL and voices, and shrugs at missing WhatL extras because the core sings. PC Gamer scores it in the 90s, praising the tasteful visual touch-ups, tilt-shift diorama vibes, a subtle texture pass, and the helpfulness everywhere design that educates without hand-holding. Game Rant's more measured, still positive, but warns newcomers that this remains a PS1-born tactics game with grind, crunchy systems like Bravery Faith that don't babysit, and difficulty spikes that are faithful to the original's chaos. That spread makes sense. The Ivalice Chronicles is a remaster with manners, not a remake with training wheels. About those visuals, if you feared smeary filters, you can unclench. Sprites and maps are sharper without losing their toy box charm. There's even a classic mode bundle that preserves the old look wholesale, though it's siloed away as a separate launcher and you can't swap on the fly or carry saves between, which is less HD nostalgia magic trick and more 2 games in one box. It's a preservation win, just not the instant compare gimmick you might have imagined. Where the remaster wisely refuses to meddle is the job system. It's still the most dangerously abusable skill lattice in a mainstream tactics game. You learn an action here, a support there, a movement skill from that class, and suddenly your monk ignores elevation like a dragoon, dual wields fists like a ninja, and deletes leadership targets faster than the turn queue can update. If you want to break the late game with arithmetician math crimes, the runway's there. If you don't, the campaign will pressure you into creative builds anyway, especially on the higher difficulty. The new job guides, trees, and cheat sheets are exactly the scaffolding newcomers needed. Now you don't need a forum tab to decide whether counterflood is bedtime or busted. Let's talk balance. The back half is still spicy. Enemies escalate from steel and sinew to screen-wide summons, and a few marquee recruits arrive tuned like legends should be. Some late missions hinge on assassinating one specific enemy, which FFT veterans know how to exploit, but on first contact you'll feel the difficulty lurch. That's authentic. The remaster answers with 3 difficulty settings you can swap between when not in combat. Middle feels like classic. Hard tests the optimization addicts. Easy nudges you through the story when you just want another cutscene of nobles betraying each other in iambic backstabs. There's also the stuff the remaster doesn't fix on purpose. Midlight's Deep, the infamous endgame dungeon, is still darker than a tax loophole and still hides exits on specific tiles. It's for sickos, not sightseers. And no, the War of the Lions extras, added jobs, bonus characters, multiplayer aren't here. The Watel translation vibe remains, and the base game's secret cameos survive with VO. But if your dream list required Baltier in your roster, this won't check that box. The trade-off is coherence. This is FFT tuned for modern brains, not a kitchen sink compilation. So where do the reviews clash on audience? Veterans are feasting. Every QL change amplifies what they already loved while shaving off the pain. Newcomers will love it if they meet it halfway, embrace the grind as a sandbox, not a slog. Accept that some systems still speak in subtext, and use the new tools instead of brute forcing saves. If you bounce off long political cutscenes in your RPGs, the fast forward button is your best friend. This script is dense on purpose. Veteran games take after combing the write-ups and footage. This is the version to recommend without the asterisk of just ignore the menus, or you'll need a guide. It doesn't modernize the soul out of FFT, it does the boring, essential work of making its brilliance legible. It's also honest about what it is not, a remake with new content, or a rebalanced reimagining that sandpapers the late game spikes. That restraint is the point. If this kind of no BS deep dive is your thing, hitch a ride with Veteran Game and hit subscribe. If you're nodding or fuming, drop a like, so this take survives the algorithm and we keep making long-form breakdowns instead of hype recaps. Final stance. The Ivalice Chronicles is the best way to play Final Fantasy Tactics today, faithful, faster, clearer, and performed. It stops short of Ultimate Edition by leaving War of the Lions bolt-ons behind and letting the endgame stay volatile. For most of us, that's a feature, not a bug. Now the debate that matters. Would you rather have a faithful remaster that respects a classic spikes, or a content-stuffed definitive cut that smooths the edges and rewrites the difficulty curve?